In August 2005, Amanda Jones drove to the Civic Center in Hillsboro, Missouri. She was 8.5 months pregnant and meeting the alleged father of her unborn baby. Months earlier, when Amanda first told him she was pregnant, he denied he was the father and encouraged her to end the pregnancy. They met that August day to discuss his role in the baby's life, since Amanda was nearing birth. Amanda and her unborn baby were never seen again. Hi everyone, my name's Anne, but I also go by my nickname Nini. I like to focus on Midwest true crime because I'm a Minnesota farmer's daughter. Today we're going to go to Missouri and talk about the disappearance of Amanda Jones and her unborn baby Hayden. This was requested by Sarah Hershey, so thank you very much for the suggestion. This is a frustrating one because it's a case where it is so obvious what happened, but the police just don't have enough evidence to arrest anybody. There's also questions in this case that the police do have enough to arrest somebody, but they don't arrest anybody because of family connections. Amanda K. Probst was born on October 6, 1978, to Hugh and Bertha. She was a daddy's girl, but also very close to her mom. Bertha said they were more like friends than mother and daughter. Amanda had an older brother named Brian. 8 years after Amanda was born, a sister, Carrie, completed the family. Amanda was protective of her little sister. Carrie said Amanda was like a second mother to her.
She was my best friend. I mean, stuff I couldn't tell my mom, of course, I told my big sister. I remember one night I got stood up for a date, and Amanda was at her bowling league, and I called her, but it didn't matter. She walked off the lane and said, "I gotta take this, my sister's calling me," and she stood there and talked to me till I calmed down, told me everything's gonna be okay. He stood you up, it's his loss. Anytime I need her, she 100% there for me.
The family described Amanda as the glue that held everyone together.
She would always be the one to step in if there was an argument or if anything, she was always the one to fix everything. And she's not there to fix it anymore.
Amanda was a social butterfly and had many friends. She loved to bowl, and she was very good at it because she acquired several bowling trophies. She was bubbly and full of life. In 1999, Amanda married Jeffrey Jones. I couldn't find a verified photo of him. In 2001, they had a daughter named Hannah. Their marriage was brief and they divorced in 2002. Amanda got custody of Hannah. She embraced life as a single mom. She was very devoted to her daughter. At the end of 2004, Amanda was 26 and her daughter was 4. They lived in Pevely, Missouri. Maybe that's Pevely. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Near the border of Missouri and Illinois. Amanda worked as a loan administrator at Eagle Bank in nearby Festus. In December 2004, a relationship Amanda was in ended, and she was understandably feeling down about that. That same month, Eagle Bank held their annual Christmas party at the Civic Center in nearby Hillsboro. People use the Civic Center for wedding receptions and other events, and this was where the annual fair was held. It was on a large property that had livestock barns and lots of grounds. At that party, Amanda met 37-year-old Brian Lee Westfall. He was the son of local farmers, worked as a computer instructor at a local college, and was a groundskeeper at the Civic Center. It sounds like he was working there the night of Amanda's work party. Amanda and Brian chatted, hit it off, and Amanda went back to Brian's place. Friends say this was out of character for Amanda, but remember, a relationship had just ended. She was feeling down about it. Maybe she was feeling a little lonely. I think we all have made poor decisions when we're not feeling the best. Shame on Brian, though, because he had a longtime girlfriend. Her name was Stephanie Vautrain. It sounds like she was maybe a college student in his class and was 13 to 15 years younger than him. They had been dating for 4 years, which doesn't sound like it meant anything to Brian because Amanda and Brian met at that party, had some fun, and then they went their separate ways. In early 2005, Amanda found out she was pregnant. At first, she wasn't sure who the father was because it could have been her ex-boyfriend or it could have been Brian Westfall's. But when she had an ultrasound and was told the correct dating, she knew it was Brian Westfall's. Amanda was surprised but happy. Obviously, getting pregnant from a one-night stand is not ideal, but Amanda loved being a mom and she was happy to be able to give her daughter a sibling. She was scared to tell her dad because he didn't approve of premarital relations, but he told her he would love the baby as much as he loved Hannah. From most people's understanding, Amanda and Brian had not talked since the night of the party. It truly had been just a one-night fling. In February 2005, Amanda reached out to Brian and asked if they could get together to talk, because obviously she had some news to tell him. Brian asked to meet at the Civic Center, so Amanda went there with Hannah. They sat in a car in the parking lot, and Amanda told him she was pregnant with his baby. Brian's reaction was definitely not that of excitement. He told her the baby wasn't his, but he also told her he'd pay for her to end the pregnancy. Hannah knew what Brian was talking about, and she shouted from the back seat something about, "You're not going to kill my baby." Amanda wouldn't have done that anyway because she was against elective termination. Brian didn't want to have anything to do with Amanda or the baby, so Amanda told him she would raise the baby on her own. She later found out she was having a boy, and she planned on naming him Hayden Lucas. She set up a nursery and began preparing for his arrival. She accepted she was going to be the single mother of 2 children, but she was very excited another baby was coming. As the weather grew warm and summer arrived, Amanda's belly grew bigger. In August 2005, when she was around 8.5 months pregnant, she decided to contact Brian one more time to ask if he was sure he didn't want to be in the baby's life. She called him and told him the baby was a boy, but he still wanted nothing to do with the baby. But on the morning of Sunday, August 14th, Brian called Amanda and asked if they could meet and talk in the Civic Center parking lot and go to lunch at Off the Hook, which is a seafood restaurant. That's such an ironic name for a restaurant for this case. Amanda was ecstatic because she thought this meant Brian had changed his mind and he wanted to be a part of the baby's life. I don't get the impression that Amanda wanted to marry Brian or be in a relationship or even date him. She just wanted the father of her baby to be a part of her baby's life. That morning, Amanda went to church with her family and they said she was glowing.
Mandy called the house from her home. And she said, "Dad, you'll never guess who just called. Brian. He wanted to meet and talk." I think she was in the hopes that morning that he was ready to
Take responsibility. She came to church that day. She was a little bit late because of that phone call, but everybody in there looked at her. I mean, she was just grinning from ear to ear. I mean, she had this glow on her face. Like,
She did.
Oh, it was just, I'll never forget it. It was just amazing.
A picture of Amanda and her parents was taken at church that day, and she has on the last outfit she was seen wearing: a pink sleeveless shirt, pink and white flowered skirt, and pink flip-flops. After church, Amanda asked her parents to watch Hannah while she met with Brian. She told Hannah she would be back in a few hours and gave her a kiss. Her sister Carrie had an uneasy feeling about Amanda meeting Brian, and she offered to go with.
I said, "Why don't I go with you?" "No, Carrie, I need to do this on my own. I'll be fine." First of all, when she told him she was pregnant, he wanted her to get an abortion. Then he didn't talk to her for pretty much the whole time she was pregnant. Then after she contacts him, that he's about to be born and everything, and she just wants to know if he wants to be in his life or not, he all of a sudden contacts her and wants to meet. I just had a bad feeling. But instead of following my gut feeling, I let her go alone. I had my own car. I could have followed her and I didn't do it. And if I would have followed her, she might still be here today and Hayden would be too. But I didn't do it. And she never came home.
Poor Carrie. You can tell she has just beaten herself up over this over the years, but what happened was not her fault. Around 12:30, Amanda stopped at Walgreens and bought pop, hairspray, and a keychain. She then drove to the Civic Center to meet Brian at 1 p.m. Amanda brought ultrasound pics with her to show Brian. It seems like they sat in her car and talked. At 1:16, Amanda received a call on her cell phone. This was from her former sister-in-law, Rona Boyer. Rona said Amanda was very abrupt with her on the phone and not like her usual self.
She answered very abrupt, and Amanda never, ever had ever spoke to me in that tone. She says, "Hello." And I said, "Hi, Amanda, it's Rhonda." And she goes, "I can't talk right now. I can't talk right now." And I'm like, "Well, it's okay." I said, I just need to I'm here picking up the order for your party, and I need to know what kind of makeup that you wanted. I don't know. I can't talk right now. She goes, I'll call you back. I said, Amanda, wait. I said, are you in labor? That's how intense she was. She goes, no, I would call you if I was in labor. And I said, okay, hon. She goes, I think it's got an 8 in or something. I got to go, and hung up. I didn't know that she was with him that day.
No one ever heard from Amanda Jones again. Around 3:30, Amanda's father, Hugh, began to worry when they hadn't heard anything from Amanda. They called her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Carrie drove to Amanda's house, but she wasn't there. The family worried something was seriously wrong. They drove to the Civic Center and found Amanda's blue 1997 Pontiac Sunfire in the parking lot. It was unlocked, but there was no sign of Amanda. Her purse, wallet, car keys, and cell phone were missing and have never been found. There was no sign of a struggle, but one of the car doors was slightly open. They called police and reported Amanda missing.
It was bouched up from the very beginning in my eyes. I mean, the first thing Sheriff Booyer said, well, I think she just walked away.
Yeah.
Come on. How is somebody in that condition going to just walk away? Why would she leave a 4-year-old daughter?
That was her life.
That was her life, and she had the bedroom all ready for the baby. Yeah. I mean, it was just...
There was no way.
How could somebody say she just walked away? When he said that, I lost it. I mean, I was a basket case anyway, but that just tore me up something terrible.
First of all, that's rude to say to a family who is obviously worried about their loved one. And second, that was very unlikely. Amanda was heavily pregnant. Like most women who are at that stage of their pregnancy, Amanda waddled when she walked. It would be very hard for Amanda to walk away on foot. Some people wondered, well, maybe her situation was just too much to deal with. You know, she was about to be a single mom of 2 children. Maybe she just couldn't handle it and ran away to escape it. For some people, the thought of being a single parent of 2 young children would be very daunting, but it wasn't for Amanda. She had a good job, her own home. She had a lot of family support, and she loved being a mother. Hayden's nursery was stocked with everything needed for a baby boy. And even things that a baby boy didn't need, because Amanda had already started to spoil him a little bit. When you look at everything that was in his nursery, it is so obvious how much Amanda was looking forward to that little boy's arrival. It wasn't until 2 days after Amanda was missing that police were like, well, maybe it was foul play. For those 2 days, though, Amanda's family was on their own. They knew Amanda had been meeting Brian Westfall, but they knew very little about him. They didn't even have a phone number. So Bertha got out a phone book and she started calling every Westfall, and she asked everybody who answered, is there a Brian there? And after a few calls, someone said yes. This ended up being Brian's mother. The Westfalls had a large farm, and Brian's parents lived in one house on the property, and he lived in another house on the property.
I told him who I was, and while I was calling, I said, where's my daughter? He said, I don't know. I said, well, did she go into labor or anything? No. I think at that point I hung up because I was so upset.
You didn't hang up. My wife was just
I was hysterical.
I took the phone and I said, listen, Brian, I said, I'm Amanda's father. And I said, if anything's happened to her, I will hold you responsible.
Brian told Bertha he and Amanda met up, had lunch, and he dropped her off at her car in the Civic Center parking lot around 2 p.m. Surveillance cameras were checked at the Off the Hook restaurant, and there was no sign of Brian or Amanda. Hugh confronted Brian about this, and Brian then said they had met up in the parking lot at the Civic Center. Amanda showed him the ultrasound and asked if she should give the baby his last name. He said no because he was not the father. He claims Amanda got upset and asked to use the bathroom in the Civic Center. When she came back out, she said she wasn't hungry, so they ended up not going to lunch. She got back in her car around 2 p.m., and Brian said he went back to working in the horse barn on the Civic Center property. He said when he left around 5:30 p.m., he saw Amanda still sitting in her car in the parking lot, and her phone was to her ear as though she was talking on it. That story is such BS. Who is going to sit in their car for 3 hours like that? Plus, this was August. It was a very, very hot day. Amanda was heavily pregnant, and the air conditioning did not work in her car. There's no way she would have sat in it for 3 hours. It was also proven that Amanda could not have been on her phone at that time because they were able to retrieve her cell phone records, and the last time her cell phone was used was when her sister-in-law called at 1:16. There were no outgoing or incoming calls after that one. And just to note, the last time her credit card was used was when she was at that Walgreens around 12:30. Amanda's family wasted no time telling police that Amanda had been meeting Brian Westfall because she thought he was the father of her unborn baby. Police asked Brian to come to the police station to talk, and he showed up with his lawyer. Apparently, the day after Amanda went missing, Brian's girlfriend, Stephanie, also retained the same lawyer. I get it's smart to have legal representation, but man, that looks bad. Lawyers are expensive, so to immediately retain one like that is fishy to me. And why the heck did Stephanie get one? Because she obtained a lawyer before police even asked her to come in for any questioning. Brian told police the same story he had told Amanda's parents. Well, the second version of his story, where they met in the parking lot, talked about the baby, which he doubted was his, and then he went to work and he saw her still sitting in her car at 5:30 p.m. He said when he left the Civic Center, he went to the fire department and talked to the captain for 10 to 15 minutes. Police talked to the fire captain and he verified that Brian had come to talk to him and he was alone when he talked to him. Brian said after that he went home. But he told police he and Amanda's conversation had been civil, and that's not what he had told Amanda's parents. He told them Amanda got upset. Brian had mentioned again to the police that Amanda appeared to have been on the phone when he drove past her at 5:30, but police pointed out to him that her last cell phone usage was at 1:16 p.m. Brian's lawyer didn't let him address that question. Witnesses came forward and said they had driven to the Civic Center around 4:30 p.m. the day Amanda went missing. They said they saw her car in the parking lot, but no one was sitting in it. They said they drove around to the horse barn and saw Brian's truck there. Brian came out of the barn when he heard a vehicle. He told them he was loading things, but his trailer was empty. Police talked to Stephanie. She told police the night before Amanda went missing, she and Brian made plans for her to come to his house after she got off work Sunday night. He asked her to buy some rubber totes for horse supplies because the totes the supplies were currently in were old. She apparently bought some rubber totes at Target and then Sunday got to Brian's house around 8 p.m. She said she spent about an hour there and then went back to her parents' house, who she lived with. She claimed she didn't hear anything about Amanda until she saw it on the news the following day. Amanda's disappearance was declared a suspected kidnapping and the FBI got involved. Police searched the Civic Center buildings and grounds. They asked to search Brian's property since he was the last person known to see Amanda. They couldn't get a search warrant, so they could only search areas Brian consented to being searched. 2 days after Amanda went missing, they performed this limited search.
It was limited. So Brian Westfall told the law enforcement officers where they could search.
To me, that just seemed like a waste of time. Of course, he's not going to have them search areas where he might have something. Like if you buried a body over by the apple tree, you're not going to tell police, oh yeah, you can go look over by that apple tree. You're going to say, no, you go over there. But at least they were able to search some of the areas. On August 24th, 2005, they did another search with the FBI, but it was still a limited search. They were able to search Brian's car and house, but they were not able to search his parents' house. Police said they did collect some items of evidence during that search, but they haven't said what those items are. Police have claimed multiple times over the years that they were unable to get a proper search warrant for Brian's property because they didn't have probable cause. There was no evidence that proved Amanda ever left the Civic Center that day.
To get a search warrant, you have to establish a crime's been committed, first of all, and then you have to establish that evidence of that crime, that there's probable cause to believe evidence of that crime is in the area or location or object that you want to search.
Brian obviously had motive to want to get rid of Amanda. It was very clear he did not want the baby, but police have said that a motive is not enough to get a search warrant. But Brian was caught in multiple lies, so shouldn't those lies be enough for a search warrant? This is where it comes in that people wonder if the police are protecting Brian because maybe they can get a search warrant, they just choose not to. I saw some discussions about the Westfalls having a lot of connections in Missouri, and none of this is confirmed. This is basically just gossip. But people wonder if the Westfalls are being protected by the authorities. It did seem like Brian had a personal relationship with the fire captain because he chatted with him after he left the Civic Center for 10 to 15 minutes. What did they talk about? Amanda's family and friends did everything they could to try to find her. They started a Facebook page, conducted their own searches.
Ma'am, would you help me find my daughter, please?
We're still trying to find my daughter.
You hear somebody call their friend or whoever they're with, Amanda or Mandy, is that my Mandy?
I'll never give up. I'll never give up. If I live to be 100 and she's still not missing, I'll never give up. If she's gone, then let me know she's gone.
Carrie drove around searching for signs of Amanda.
Carrie Probst and her brother Brian have taken their message, their flyers, to just about every corner of Jefferson County.
We're trying to go wherever we can, possibly where anyone may have seen her. We want her to be alive, well, and either still pregnant or have had the baby and got the baby with her.
A friend of Amanda's painted a sign on his truck and parked across the street from the Civic Center.
I had to do something. I didn't have no plywood or nothing else, so I just got the spray paint out and painted it. 99% of the people, 99.9, are just going to drive by and not think of nothing. But if that 0.1% stops buying it, it comes up with something. I'll sit out there for a week if I had to.
A week after Amanda went missing, a prayer service was held at the Civic Center. Purple balloons were released in her honor because purple was Amanda's favorite color. Over the years, people gather and release purple balloons in honor of Amanda and to try to keep attention on her case.
That's something that we can pray about, that God would give the angels charge over Amanda. We're going to hang on to hope. We're going to believe the best. We're going to believe God to give us a miracle.
Police did look into Amanda's first husband to see if maybe he wanted to get rid of her so that he could get custody of their daughter, but they cleared him. Hannah did go to live with him after Amanda disappeared, but unfortunately, he passed away in November of 2007. I couldn't find what from. That is heartbreaking. Can you imagine being 6 years old and both of your parents are already gone? Hannah was then raised by Amanda's parents. Police and the FBI did consider Brian a person of interest, but he refused any further searches or interviews. He's never spoken to the media other than to have his lawyer release statements denying that he's the father of Amanda's baby and also denying that he had anything to do with Amanda's disappearance.
Westfall certainly is a person of keen interest to us simply because, by his own admittance, he was the last one to see her that we're aware of.
They said everything that they've tried, they always come right back to him. Then why not get his butt in there and do some more investigation with him? Anytime you try to contact them, you get the same answers.
If you get an answer at all.
We don't have any new evidence. I can't conjure up evidence. Well, we're not asking them to do that. I want to know, what are you doing to get that evidence? I figure until somebody comes forward and says something, they're not going to do anything.
Our focus was on that gentleman, absolutely, right off the bat. It had to be. We had no other option. We did look at other possible avenues, but looking at video systems around, pulling for witnesses the best we could, the help of the media as far as getting the story out there, begging for witnesses, everything came back to just one person, one location. I would love to go and do a complete thorough search of everything. Unfortunately, the law doesn't allow me to do that. And when someone has a lawyer and are adamant all contact goes through the lawyer, there's certain rules to how often I can approach, how I can approach. So I get their frustration, the loved ones, and I absolutely do, but the law binds us in a lot of ways.
It's a crying shame that we live in America and our laws are like this, to where if you get a lawyer, you don't have to speak. So he could have this lawyer to the day he dies and never have to speak.
In 2016, Crime Watch Daily tried to talk to Brian on his parents' property. Brian scurried away in a tractor and his parents came running out to protect him. I can't show the clip due to copyright, but I will have this episode linked below. I highly suggest watching it because the parents' attitudes are very telling, in my opinion. And also, it's funny to watch how quickly Brian scurried away like the coward he is. In my opinion, of course. In May 2019, the CUE Center for Missing Persons went to the Civic Center to search. They brought with them highly trained cadaver dogs. Everyone gathered at the Civic Center and they did a butterfly release in honor of Amanda and Hayden.
We're hoping that this search will trigger somebody's heart to say, hey, I really need to say something for this family. We need closure. We need to find out where she's at so that we can put her to rest and the family can be put to rest.
The grounds of the Civic Center were searched and the dogs alerted to 2 areas. One was on the property and one was just north of the property. They dug up the dirt but found nothing. Most people do not feel Amanda is on the Civic Center property. Brian Westfall's family owns hundreds of acres. If she's buried anywhere, it's most likely on his property.
She's on his property. I know it as sure as I know my name. When you see it, you feel it.
2 news anchors from Fox 2 St. Louis, Katie Corman and Andy Banker, did a detailed podcast on this case in 2019. I have those videos linked below, and they did a fantastic job. They talked to police and Amanda's family and brought renewed interest into this case.
Why is law enforcement not able to do more, move further, interrogate rather than interview? Why does he get to determine where the searches happen, and why is he able to just say, I'm not going to talk again?
It's really their constitutional rights. I mean, that's really the bottom line, and those can't be violated. We're not going to violate those, and that's really what limits our scope of what we can and can't do. There's just a ton of rules we have to follow, and we have to abide by those.
Because he was the last person to see her, because of their past, because of the question of this paternity and whether maybe he wanted her to have an abortion, why isn't that enough to say we need to go after him and we have enough reason to search his property, to ask him more questions, to get answers from him?
We've never had probable cause for an arrest. We've never had probable cause to get a search warrant for certain properties we'd like to look at, so we have to fall back on permission to search.
Potential motive, him being the last person, that is still not enough to say we have reason to believe that we need to search that property or we need to question him again.
Well, again, there's a difference, a legal definition of reason to believe or reasonable doubt, but to get what you're talking to, what we want to do, we need probable cause to get those search warrants or, even arrest in the case, and we're just not to that point yet.
They also spoke to Hannah, who at the time was a senior in high school. And they did show her face. I'm not comfortable sharing her face, but if you do want to see her, she is in the interviews linked below.
If you look at Hannah, you see Mandy acts like her too a lot of times.
Her voice is the same.
Oh, yeah.
Her laugh.
She's still gone, and she's not here. I didn't have a brother, and then I don't have a mom anymore. And then I just miss her.
Hannah still holds on to the last gift her mother ever gave her, a teddy bear from their last vacation. She said she thinks her mom is in heaven.
What would you say to your mom today?
That I love her with all my heart, and that I'd never do anything to disappoint her.
In October 2021, Amanda's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Brian Westfall. Just 2 months later, this case took an unfortunate turn, because Brian died. On December 5th, 2021, he complained of a headache and collapsed. He was brought to a hospital and died 2 days later from a presumed stroke at the age of 53. It's very interesting timing because apparently police were going to arrest Brian within 24 hours of when he collapsed. The day after Brian went to the hospital, police talked to Stephanie and told her they were very likely going to be charging Brian for Amanda's disappearance. Things weren't looking good for Brian. A civil lawsuit had been filed against him. It seemed like the police were closing in on him. So did he really have a stroke, or did he take the easy way out? Amanda's parents and Hannah issued a statement about Brian's death. They said, quote, "The sudden death of Brian Westfall has shocked all of us beyond belief. We as a family feel cheated that Brian has died before we could find our daughter Amanda and unborn grandson Hayden. This news follows our recent legal actions against Brian, and we feel that another opportunity to get a step closer in finding them has been lost," unquote. They expressed condolences to Brian's family and said, quote, "The Westfall family can lay their child to rest in a sacred place. We still have not had that opportunity," unquote. Amanda's family tried to continue the lawsuit, but it was dismissed without prejudice about a year later, so they could try again if they wanted to. They said they will not stop their search for answers about what happened to Amanda and baby Hayden. It's very easy to see the love and devotion this family has for Amanda. They run into so many roadblocks. All this time has passed, and they still are fighting very hard to find Amanda and Hayden.
In the past, we cried, we begged, we pleaded, and we asked for help in finding our daughter Amanda. Today, we are asking for you to search your hearts and souls. We know there is someone out there who's seen, who has heard and knows. We not only lost a daughter and a grandson, but Hannah has lost her mother and brother. Then she suffered the loss of her dad 2 years after that. If anyone needs answers and deserves to know it, it's her. We have had different ones tell us in the past that it's time to let go and move on. You look into the eyes of this child and tell her to forget her mom and brother. How heartless can one be? There is that one individual that has the answers we need, so we ask you to search your heart and give this family the closure we need. Amanda was a devoted mother, a hard worker, a dear daughter, sister, and a friend. She is missed and loved by a multitude of people. So we ask you to search your hearts and look into the eyes and heart of Hannah and give her the answer she needs along with us.
How dare you take my sister from me? How dare you take my niece's mom? How dare you take my mom and dad's daughter? How dare you?
You know, like when a holiday goes by, oh Lord, here's another Christmas without her. Do we have to go another year or another birthday? Hannah graduating and her mom's not here, you know, to see it. How many of these things, milestones, has she missed because somebody decided to take her away?
Until you get closure, you can't move on. It's always going to be there.
I just hope that I find out the truth before I die.
The unknown is worse than death itself. If she would have died,
it would have been easier.
It would have been easier because we've been able to say goodbye to her. We've been able to know what happened to her. At this rate, we know nothing.
I feel it's just so blatantly obvious what happened in this case. Amanda did not run away. She would not leave her daughter. And what are the odds that some random person would be by the Civic Center that day and abduct Amanda? Also, is a pregnant woman really up there on like serial killers or abductors list of women that they would want to abduct? I would think a woman that heavily pregnant would be a nuisance. This is just my opinion, but I wonder if Brian strangled her in the parking lot that day because he did not want the baby. He did not want to be tied to Amanda. I wonder if he brought her body back to his parents' property and buried her there. I do wonder if maybe the totes had something to do with it, those totes that he had Stephanie buy. Like, did he dismember Amanda, put her in the totes, and then those are buried somewhere on the property? Herb Baumeister is a serial killer out of Indiana, and I've started looking into his case. He buried a lot of his victims on his property, and police are still trying to find to this day all of the bodies that he buried. They've used something called ground penetrating radar where they can fly over with a helicopter or a drone or something, and it can show them items that might be buried in the dirt. I do wonder if you need a search warrant to do this over somebody's property, because otherwise I'm like, oh, they should do that to the Westfall's property and see if there's something buried out there. But like I said, maybe they need a search warrant to do that. And in all these years, they have not been able to get a search warrant. Obviously, Brian Westfall can never be arrested for this crime, but if his girlfriend Stephanie had any involvement, like if she helped get rid of Amanda's body, there's a possibility she could be charged with something. Even if she didn't help with anything, but she knows where Amanda is buried, maybe one day she'll wake up and do the right thing and tell Amanda's family where her body is buried so they can give her a proper burial and at least have peace of knowing what happened to Amanda. When Amanda met Brian Westfall in the Civic Center parking lot that day, she had brought along ultrasound pictures to show him. Police kept them for many years as evidence. These were the only ultrasound photos Amanda had and the only pictures of baby Hayden that her family had. When Fox 2 St. Louis did their 2019 podcast, they asked if the ultrasound photos could be returned to Amanda's family. Police agreed, and the photos were given to Amanda's family so they could have a picture of baby Hayden. You can see Hayden's face, and it's a stark reminder that 2 lives were lost that day. In 2021, the FBI put up a bulletin board in St. Louis regarding Amanda's case. They are still offering a $20,000 reward for information regarding the disappearance of Amanda and her unborn baby. This case reminds me a lot of the Patty Atkins case, where she was having an affair with a married man and had been giving him money, and she was about to cut it off. And one night after work, she disappeared, but it really seems like maybe he had something to do with it. I think a lesson that can come from Patty's case and Amanda's case is if you're with a married man and he's made it very clear that he doesn't want to leave his wife, or if you get pregnant by a man and it's clear he doesn't want to be a father, never, ever, 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 ever agree to meet them alone somewhere. That's all I have for this case. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.